Well, the air in Winnipeg is getting colder, to be sure, but it's also getting thinner. That's because, thank you very much, some of the best literary talent from the prairies and beyond will be descending on the city for Thin Air, the annual Writers' Festival presented by Plume Winnipeg. The festival officially gets underway on Saturday, but ahead of that, Plume Winnipeg's executive director, Charlene Diehl, has joined us to give us a bit of a preview, as it were, maybe a bit of an excerpt to keep with the book theme.
Maybe so.
Maybe so. Nice to see you, Charlene.
Good to see you too.
So if we're thinking about this year's festival compared to other ones that people might have experienced in the past, what stands out to you that's very special about Thin Air 2025?
Well, here's the thing about, I've done a lot of festivals now. This is my 23rd festival coming up, which is a lot.
All right.
So in a way, everyone is quite special because it's a whole new roster of writers and a whole new collection of books. And what I've always thought is that writers, artists, storytellers are kind of like the canaries in the coal mine. You know, they travel ahead of us and then they kind of come back to report, where are we going? So every year you can see certain ideas kind of come to the forefront. So in a way, it's always special because it's a little chance to kind of see what are people thinking about? What are the tellers, the storytellers, the keepers of stories of our cultural time?
Yeah.
What are they offering us? So that's a kind of a generic answer that says every year is special in its own way. But we do have some really cool things this year that I am very excited about. And one of them is, if you'll pardon the extended book metaphor.
I brought it up for a reason.
We have bookends this year.
I love it.
We have our first time to do book fairs. And we start on Saturday morning.
Great.
So just, right around the corner.
Exactly.
At the Millennium Library with the Made Manitoba Book Fair. So we've invited Manitoba publishers, and I think there's maybe 8 or 10 of them.
Great.
Are going to come to the Carol Shields Auditorium at the Millennium and set up tables with their stuff. It's amazing how many books are actually published in this province. It's astonishing. There's a lot of professional publishing houses in this province that specialize mostly in Manitoba writers, but not solely. So they're going to set up kind of like a big trade fair in the Carol Shields Auditorium. You can shop, you can browse, prowl around, and then across the hall, Ida Bakery is going to be bringing in coffee and pastries hello. And that's going to be our we're calling it the Reading Lounge. So that place is going to be open for the morning. Well, it runs from 10:30 till 1:30. Just getting this out of my head. And at the top of each hour, we have a short reading by one of the artists on our roster.
Wow.
So I'm really looking forward to that because I think it's a chance to kind of open with the celebration of what actually is happening here in this province. I think a lot of people probably don't really know.
Well, and it's awesome also, I would imagine, to have the opportunity to have that showcase opportunity for Manitoba authors and writers of a wide variety of disciplines. But since you've been involved with this festival for as many years as you have, maybe you have a sense of what an opportunity like this, a Made in Manitoba book fair with these kinds of readings, maybe you have a sense of what impact or what inspiration Manitoba authors and writers take from interacting at an event either like this or even similar to this.
Absolutely. The thing about writing, which is not like all of the art forms, but it's a very, very solitary work. You can only be in the presence of your own head. You might be sitting in a cafe. So I'm not going to say you're going to be necessarily in a garret, and who has garrets anymore anyway. But it's quite solitary, and you're at the same time you're imagining how it's going to be received, because there's as there is with all art, there's a cycle, a circle of energy. It's the out and the in. So in a way, when you're writing, you're conjuring an audience, even if you're writing for your own kind of reading self. So all that work of generating, editing, proofreading, and going through the elaborate maze that is publication, then the chance to actually meet people who are receiving your work it's an absolutely powerful experience for writers, and maybe especially for the emerging writers who at some level maybe think maybe no one will ever find my work.
Sure.
So I think that's one side of the equation, and the other I think is for our public, our book-loving public. And honestly, aside, not everybody is reading very much anymore, but people still love the experience of receiving, audiobooks, whatever. So a lot of things I think are happening almost more by ear than by eye these days.
Sure.
But people who love books have a chance to see like what all is happening here. It's a lot of writers, and a really, really active publishing community that is making things that are that's our culture, local culture.
Being contributed to by these writers that are in a wide range of their careers as well. You mentioned the emerging writers as well, and Thin Air is offering a lot of chances for aspiring writers to go and hone their craft as well with a wide variety of genres. What can you tell us about the workshop opportunities that are present for the aspiring writers?
You are really quite good at this, Nolan. Just like slide the stuff in there. So yes, we have for many years thought, if you get a collection of great writers, why would you not make opportunities for people who really seriously are pursuing the craft of writing to have a chance to like, what does this person know that I might want to know? So we have a series we call the Writer Studio, and anybody who's interested in writing at whatever level can attend these. And we have 3 of them in English and 1 in French. So our 3 in English start on Saturday afternoon with a really talented young poet named Daniel Maluka, who is doing a workshop sort of targeted toward young poets. So in the youth kind of zone, although I'm not going to say anybody be turned away if they're in their 20s,
Yeah.
But he's calling it Embrace the Cringe. So he's basically going to put people through some exercises that help them to be more candid, more honest, more of a deep dive into telling your truth. And sometimes there is a lot of cringe. There's a lot of cringe for even very established writers because you think, I don't know if I can say that.
Sure.
And you have to make room for that.
That's really interesting, though, to be able to get these kinds of things that you might take for granted when you just see like a person who is talented at delivering their words, but also like that does take a craft in and of itself. And there are plenty of artists that have honed their craft over the last number of years that are going to be featured writers at this year's Thin Air Festival. Maybe you can highlight a couple of them that you already have highlighted a couple, including poetry of Daniel Maluka, among others, but maybe some other writers in other genres even that are making an appearance.
Okay, I'll start with a really adventurous event that we've got on Sunday morning this first weekend with it's going to be at Merchant's Corner up on Selkirk. It's a beautiful space, and we have invited Kathy Avery Canoe, who has written about wild rice in a new book called Manamin, which is the Indigenous word for wild rice. She's going to talk a little bit about the kind of ecology and sort of an Indigenous understanding of how natural spaces work and the centrality of wild rice. But also we have a young Indigenous chef named Jennifer Ballantyne who's going to come also and talk about Indigenous food practices and I think probably bring us some sort of treats, which would be nice. So that's I think that's going to be really special.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll say that we have 3 evening shows, each of which are going to be amazing. Saturday is poetry night with a haiku showdown, which is very irreverent. Wednesday night is a celebrating Voices in the Circle, so it's all Indigenous writers. And then Friday night is we're calling it Reliably Unreliable, and it's all people whose work is kind of playing with a narrator. Can you trust the story this narrator is telling you?
Oh, interesting.
So I think that's going to be really fun. We have a nonfiction series we call Big Ideas. There's really amazing writers in that series. We have afternoon book chats. I get to host those, so I like those
Aha.
sort of chats with like what's behind the scenes as a writer. We've got a wicked big French program this year because we've teamed up with Maison Gabriel Roy, and they. So that's the bookend. I forgot to get to the other end of the book. So the bookend,
that's right,
is a whole day called Salon du Livre Francophone.
Okay.
So it's French publishers from across the country, which is awesome.
Yeah, right.
Doing a sort of similar thing, and they've got, I don't know, many, many, many little mini hits, I think at every half hour.
Right.
So that's crazy and busy and will be really exciting.
Similar to that Made in Manitoba book fair idea that you were talking about a little bit before. Okay,
Exactly.
so I'm going to ask for a couple of recommendations specifically here for two different kinds of festival goer from you,
Okay,
Charlene.
you
So
bet.
let's start off with the seasoned pro, somebody who has been to Thin Air as long as you've been there, and they know kind of what to expect. They've interacted with some of these Winnipeg luminaries. David Bergen going to be a part of this
Yeah, for
year's
sure.
festival. Katarina Vermette in the same mold. What's something that for the seasoned veterans they'll go, oh, that's a new dimension to this festival I love?
Yes. I would say a seasoned goer probably already feels passionate about those evening shows, which are kind of more curated. Like they're just
Right.
a group of writers that belong together for some reason or other. I think that those seasoned goers might be really intrigued with that reading and eating, the Manamin
Yeah.
Wild Rice event,
wondered
because it's a
about
little bit out of the ordinary. And maybe also, they probably would also be going to some of the other evening events. I think our final day on the 28th, we have a really special event at McNally called Nijote Stories, named for a very beloved friend of mine who's no longer with us, an elder named Theodore Nijote Fontaine. And it's our Truth and Reconciliation event, which we run every year. And that's going to be really special. It's with a lawyer, an Indigenous lawyer and an advocate named Bruce McIver. I think that's going to be an important and very meaningful gathering too.
Okay, so that's
So
something
that's-
that's something for the
yeah.
seasoned
Yeah.
folks. What about for the first timer who is making their way there this time? What's like that event? Like, I mean, obviously all of these things sound incredibly inviting and warm and invite you to engage with the magic of Manitoba literature. What's an event that's going to really just grab that interest?
My feeling about the first timers that I've talked to, and I've talked to a lot over the years, often people are a little bit intimidated. They think, like, I don't read really very much, or I don't write. This is probably for writers. I don't write. And I guess I think if you can remember what it felt like to be read to when you were a kid, where some story or voice is kind of carrying you, you know, sort of inviting you. I think we have more of that experience now with audiobooks, maybe.
Sure.
But I would say, I think probably if you're very shy, if you're like new and shy, go to one of the events at McNally Robinson, because you can kind of step into the back there, and if you'll probably find like, oh, I actually really like this. You hear David Bergen is the first one in that series, and he'll read a bit from his new book, which is mystery, which is not really his usual genre.
And far away from Manitoba too, I will add.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
one of our 5 selections for what to read this month from McNally
see, there you go.
Robinson.
Then
If
really,
you want to
you
learn
should
more
go over
about
there.
that, you can go check it out on the Classic 107 website or app.
Exactly. Well done. So yeah, he'll read a bit, and then he'll be in conversation with Joan Thomas, who's another of the luminary writers in this city. So that is probably, I would say that might be an entry-level drug. You know, you kind of get to hear, like, what does it feel like to be part of a group that's listening to someone read? What's it like to hear writers talk about their work? You know, maybe the research, maybe the impetus, maybe some of the deeper issues they're going for.
Sure.
I think that the books are really critical to our ways of understanding.
Absolutely.
The other entry, I'll just say, I just thought of this now. Okay, the Nuit Blanche is the final Saturday of our festival,
right?
And the final event on that day is this wild. We're calling it Promenade Slam. So it's a joint effort between the Winnipeg Slam group and the French Slam group, which I think is called Manitobam. I'm not quite sure about that. Anyway, those two groups have got together, and there's 12 slammers altogether, and they're actually doing a slam promenade.
Wow.
So they're going to start at Travel Manitoba, at the Forks, the Travel Manitoba
outstanding
kiosk there, and they're going to drag a sound system via wagon to the Gandhi statue and then over the bridge.
Wow.
And they're going to be slamming all the way. It's sort of more of a performance and not so much a competition, which some slam is, but I think that is going to be wildly fun. And then that's totally, step up, see what it's like. And that night's full of people walking neighborhoods anyway. So
totally featuring many folks that have been talked about on these airwaves, that slam, including Joel Stevenson, who I'm sure we will hear from again in the coming weeks.
Right on.
So much to look forward to here.
So much to look forward to.
Pink programs
are at McNally.
There we go.
Various cafes and stuff, libraries.
Awesome. And we'll link to all that information, of course, at our website, classic107.com, and on the Classic 107 app. Charlene Diehl, this has been unbelievable to get to know all of these elements of Thin Air. All the best for this literary journey.
Thank you so much.